Hi everyone, this is BritSimon. I wanted to come on, jump online. I hadn't planned to do this video, but there's been a very interesting set of information published by Curtis Morrison this evening. It's in the UAO versus Biden case. Yeah, so which is the DV2022 large case that Curtis has got going at the moment. I think he's got about 2,500 clients in that case. But there's some information in there that's been published that's kind of impactful for everybody to see. And I wanted to just sort of quickly run through that and show you what I'm seeing there. There's a lot of information in this document, and I'm sure over the next few hours there'll be lots of interesting things coming out of this. But there's a couple of pages specifically that I think some of you will want to see, and it gives case queue sizes at various embassies around the world, quite a number of embassies. Up to now, we've only had the queue sizes for a couple of embassies. But this information actually gives us the queue sizes as they stand right now, which is going to be impactful for your chances to get interviewed in the final weeks and of the program for DV 2022. So let me show you what I'm looking at, so you can see this. Okay, let me make this bigger for a start. Well, can I zoom in? Let's make this fairly big. Can I hide that? I don't know. Okay, that's probably as big as I can get it. Yeah, about there. Okay, so you want to download this this filing from Curtis Morrison's Twitter or his Telegram channel, and you want to come to page number 161. And this is particularly what I want you to have a look at. And basically, it gives a number of posts over a couple of pages here. That's probably about 60 posts. So it's by no means every post in the world, but it's a lot of them. And the first three columns relate to basically information about Curtis's case. And if you are one of Curtis's clients on this case, he's already publishing information to you so that you know what this means to you. But for non-plaintiffs in his case, other people, you can actually see the queue sizes here, and this is kind of important. So let me just sort of take a few here. So you can see that some of the embassies have an NA by them because this is about queue size. Now, NA means there is no queue for that particular embassy. That's what I think that means. I'll confirm that with Abidjan in a few moments, because I thought I saw something on that particular embassy. But looking at the other embassies, Abu Dhabi, for example, the 991 number is the number of cases, not selectees only, but cases. And there would be derivatives as well, but cases in the queue for... That's my dog going nuts. She's very spooked tonight for some reason, silly dog. Anyway, that's the number of cases ready for to be sent to the embassy. That's the queue size of AV cases, right? So as we go down, Accra, for example, 1,104. Addis Ababa, 1,143. We knew that number and thereabouts that number. Let's go down a few more here. You can. What I'm suggesting is that you'll come and have a look and see if your own embassy is listed. But Ankara, 1,432 cases, right? Now, if we went down to, I wonder if Kathmandu is in there. No. Oh, it is, yes. So in Kathmandu, look at that. Kathmandu, because they just scheduled 980 cases just a few days ago, they've got no queue, right? They've taken every case that was available to them and took them all. And so there's no queue there. Now, that means that if you are still not scheduled, if you're not scheduled at Kathmandu, for example, then as long as they do at least some interviews in the next month in September, you stand a very good chance of getting an interview there, right? And there are other. Now, be careful, because Kabul, you're not going to be interviewed there. That's so ignore that asterisk, right? Ignore Kabul. Joburg, no queue. There is no queue at Johannesburg, right? At Islamabad, many people have been asking what's happening at Islamabad. Islamabad, of course, is an embassy where it didn't have any local cases, but a number of people went there from neighboring cases, particularly those affected by embassy closures. So now they've got 634 cases queued up, right? Let's see, some more here. Frankfurt. Some people have been asking about Frankfurt and Warsaw. So Frankfurt has got 309 cases queued up. Now, could they handle 309 cases in a month? Well, we'll see. Now, whoops, let me just stay on this. I want to stay on this for a few more moments. Give you a look at the second page here. Madrid, I'm going actually to Madrid on Friday. Interesting to see that one, but there is no queue of cases there. So again, if you're waiting for an interview at Madrid, you should not be waiting more than a couple of weeks for your interview if your case is processed, right? Excuse me. Nairobi, 1,286 cases in the queue. Some of them are not too bad, like Muscat, for example, with 38 cases. You could imagine an embassy taking all of those cases in a month, right? It's possible. With other scenarios like Nairobi, unless they do something extremely dramatic, where number of cases totaled so far year to date in Nairobi, for example, is 557 cases. They've got 1,286 in the queue, right? So in the previous 10 or 11 months, they've managed 557. Do we think they're going to do 1,286 in the final month? It's not likely, right? So if you're in that queue for Nairobi, you've got a problem. Things are not looking good. You probably already realize that, but at least by looking at these numbers, you can confirm, what the situation might be. So look at this column to see how many cases they've scheduled. Look at recent data to see how many cases your embassy is scheduling recently, and then have a look at the queue size and see whether you think you're going to get a chance in the final month or not. There are also something you could do, sort of, is if, for example, let's see, is Warsaw on here? Yes, it is. So there are 1,374 cases at Warsaw, right? Now, it's difficult getting a transfer at this point, and the transfers have to be handled. The sort of transfer I'm talking about, there's two ways to get a transfer. One is you speak to KCC and you convince KCC that you need to be moved to a different embassy. And the other way is to wait to be scheduled at an embassy and then have a transfer from one embassy to another, okay? The latter scenario is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the former scenario where you're sitting waiting for an interview at Warsaw. If you've got a high case number in Warsaw, they've interviewed 1,343 cases year to date, right? They've got 1,374 in the queue. They're not going to get to all 1,374. So if you've got a relatively high case number, then if I were you, I would have one last try to try and get your case moved, right? Now, where could you go? Well, you could go to Vienna, for example, right? Because Vienna doesn't have a queue, right? So, what we should, if only KCC would cooperate a little bit better, we could move some of these cases from one relatively easy, with one relatively easy trip around Europe. From Warsaw to Vienna is not too terrible. Okay, hours in a car, but for a once in a lifetime, opportunity, you'd do it, right? So, you could move some cases. KCC would maybe move some of these cases to Vienna or some of the neighboring embassies. Let's look at some others, neighboring embassies, right? In Naples has no queue, right? Paris has no queue. You know, I mean, you know, let's see if we can figure out how to do this, right? So have a look at this data. This is not the complete list of embassies, but it is worthwhile looking at this. And if you've got any connections to an embassy or a country where an embassy is sitting there with no queue, and you feel that you can contact KCC as quickly as possible and say, look, I've got business in Paris, or I've got family in Paris. You know, I can go to Paris. I'm stuck in, you know, I'm stuck in a queue at Warsaw, but I can go to Paris. Okay, let me go there. Well, that might be your last chance. So if you know you've got a high case number, or if you think that you're going to be delayed and you're not going to get a chance, this might be your last opportunity. The final scheduling of interviews for DV2022 is likely to happen in the remainder of July and the beginning of August, right? Now, the lawsuits could achieve some additional scheduling after that point, but generally speaking, after the visa bulletin is issued in August, they'll be moving on to October scheduling. Now, it's not impossible to imagine that you know, we get some activity. You know, we get some activity after the early days of August that is still September interviews. I'm not saying it's impossible. I just don't think it's very likely. Okay, so you know, if you can get moved, this is going to be your final chance in the next couple of weeks, right? Now, of course, if you're in AV status, they're not supposed to move you at all. But I'm saying, look, just try one more time, okay? And see if you can get scheduled over there somehow. It may be for nothing, but it's worth a try. Okay. Okay. That's what I wanted to show you. There is some other information in here that is kind of connected to that. There is, let me just scroll down, see if I can, yeah. There are some numbers here which for each of the embassies, let me just zoom out a little bit. So for each embassy, for DV cases, it shows you the amount of cases they've been processing, essentially their capacity. So Nairobi, for example, has been, for DV cases, has been accommodating these numbers, less than 100 for Nairobi, right? Now, if we go back to page number 161 for a second, and there, go back to that, we have a look at Nairobi. Nairobi has got 1,286 people in the queue. And as you see, for no month in any of these months have they been over about 70 cases. So we're not going to see 1,286 cases suddenly get happy. There is going to be a failure of you know, of the Nairobi embassy to satisfy all of its cases. Could they do what Kathmandu did and sort of, you know, put everyone through there in the final month? Yeah, it's possible, but I don't think it's likely. Okay, I think you've got to be realistic about that. Okay, so by all means, go and have a look at this information. Have a look at the capacity, per, or the historical capacity per embassy. That's interesting too. Have a look at that data and see what you think. What's this Nairobi? Oh, Nairobi, we just talked. We talked about Rio. See, Rio's done pretty well. So Rio has done 598 year to date, and the early days it did like 170 in 1 month. And if we look at page 161 again, let's just scan back up to 161. We look at Rio. We can see that Rio has 7 cases in their queue. I think clearly all 7 of those cases are going to get interviews in September, right? That's how we can interpret this data, because Rio has been doing all of that work, right? So There you go. I'm hoping that was interesting information for you. Hopefully that's clarified some of the data you're seeing there, and you can go along and have a look at that data yourself. It's quite simple. I think what I'll do is I'll probably screenshot a couple of these pages and put them on Twitter or Telegram or something, so that makes it a little bit easier. But I'm grateful to Curtis for making this data available. He's always had this transparency. He prefers the transparency of the data. He's been in trouble for that in the past, but that's Curtis's decision, right, on this. And he also has in this declaration, by the way, there is also this information, which they've blanked out the names of the selectees, but these are Curtis's cases, and it shows the position where they are in the queue, the status, and interview dates for some of those cases. So you can go ahead and see your own data if you are one of Curtis's cases. I'll be reading through the rest of this documentation tonight. Just a quick point on a personal note, as I mentioned earlier, I'm traveling from this Friday. I'm taking some vacation time, going to Spain. Going to go to the Canary Islands and Madrid, and I'm going to hang out and enjoy some time with family over in Spain. So I'm looking forward to that. But it does mean that I'll be probably less active on Telegram and on my own channel. I'm going to be trying to keep up with emails, but I may be less active. So just prepare for that for a couple of weeks for me to be less active from this coming Friday. Through to the end of the month. Okay. All right, everybody. I'll finish it there. Please do let me know if you've got any questions. You can post those at BritSimonSays.com. You can get hold of me through Twitter. You can get hold of me through Telegram. There's various ways of getting hold of me, but I don't answer. I very, very rarely answer any private messages in any format. Right? Not in email, not in Telegram direct messages, not in Twitter direct messages. If you've ever had a response from me in one of those channels by email or anything else, you're very rare, because I prefer to answer questions in public, because when I do that, I help more than one person. And I've got limited time to spend on this. I can only spend a few hours a day in doing this because I have a full-time job. This is not how I earn my income. So I prefer to try and maximize the benefit of my time by answering questions in public, making those answers available to everybody, and hopefully the next person won't need to ask the same question again because they've already read the answer. In reality, people ask the same questions over and over and over again, but at least it's my way of trying to help more people than just one person that I'm answering a question to. All right. Okay, then, everybody. Thanks for joining tonight. Bye-bye now.